I promised him months ago at 5,000 subscribers, thank you all by the way, I'd be building some sort of TIE fighter and X-Wing. Now I have something special in mind for the X-Wing, so you're going to have to wait about a month or two for that. But I do have here what we started on that live stream, Darth Vader's TIE Advance with a twist. Before you click off, this ship right here is not only 145 minifigure scale and does fit Darth Vader here in the cockpit, but also transforms into the ultimate Darth Vader fighting mech based on the toys that I grew up with, and I must say, even I'm impressed with this model. So let's get straight to taking a look. This Vader mech has been, well, completely redesigned from the ground up compared to the one that we built about a year ago using the TIE Bomber. There were no such restrictions for this set, and as of such, you can actually see I've just duplicated a load of the bigger wedges on the wings. I quite like how this middle section's tiled off, but I also really am a big fan of these studs on all four corners of these wings here. You have to take my word for the bottom. I suppose I could just lift it up and show you. There you go. All four of these wings are built almost identical. These wings are a mirror image of the bottom ones, and likewise, left wing is a mirror image of the white, and they are held on with two ball joints, which you'd think makes them quite fragile, but when you smack them on the desk, they don't actually seem to move all that much. I'm sure they've been repositioned slightly from their perfectly straight angle, but as I showed you right at the start, we do have a cockpit that lifts up, and I'm going to start here because this is my favourite thing about the build. Obviously you can see a little Christmassy Vader in there, that might be a little early, but check out this cockpit as well. The cockpit is, well, it's see-through. You can see straight through that cockpit. That is something that has been missing from all of the LEGO versions, but we'll take a look at that later and compare it with the other mock I've built, as well as getting a better look at the interior, because yeah, that cockpit is really cool. You can see we've got a load of the details on the outside, and round the back, I've tried to make it as, well, as accurate as I can using all these ball joints that will later fold out into arms, legs, and still try to get it sloped off. I've reworked the shape here because Vader's Advance does have quite a round ball going on, and then it suddenly stops and slopes out, as opposed to all of the different slopes we used last time. But I'm sure you want to see how this thing transforms. So let's take one last look at the cockpit, and then I'll show you how it's done. You can see with the cockpit removed, there's not just space for Darth Vader to be chilling in this TIE, but much like all of the other Imperial ships, you can actually fit two minifigures in the cockpit, which there has definitely been room for this in previous LEGO models, so I had to include that. And the whole cockpit is just held on with these two studs at the front, which makes it as secure as need be. I did originally have them held on by a stud at the back, but because the cockpit comes so far forward, it does make it very fragile. And just take a look again at that cockpit, held on with a bar element, and then you've got a load of these round elements just around the side. And this is possibly an illegal build. I mean, it works, it holds on, and so far I haven't had any pieces crack from it, but there is a clip holding in that bar. There are other ways of getting that held on. I found this the best to hold it nice and securely in these 3x3 quarter round slopes, and then the top of the cockpit is using, both of these are printed pieces from previous TIE variants. The cockpit from the TIE Bomber, and this top one has actually been taken from an old TIE fighter, but both of them work very, very well for, of course, Vader's Advance. Right at the back, we do have two clips that can hold the lightsaber individually. You can fit the entire lightsaber down the side and just the bar or hilt on the side, but I did find after I'd built it, just storing the lightsaber hidden behind the chair works well enough and makes it really easy to get that lightsaber out. We've got some controls at the front, some ingots with perhaps more detail in, and you might have noticed right at the front we've got some studs that originally filled a gap, though they're not needed anymore. You can remove them if you like, or I guess you could also go about removing these 1x2s if you don't own a ship like the home one that comes with, well, a million of these. Now, as for transforming this model, of course, let's go from the cockpit being on, though I guess you can definitely take the cockpit off. I'm going to start off with the legs to support. Perhaps getting the wings out of the way would be easier to show on camera. The wings are held in by these bracket connectors just on each end. There are two of them. one on each side that you just pop apart to separate the wing, and this top section here is going to act as the cape. So first off, let's get that out of the way by twisting it to the back, and you'll notice as it comes over the top, it just goes around the cockpit. So it's nice to not have any sort of obstruction and can be held in place by this frying pan stud that's just in there. It's just round about under here. You can see the same on the other side. This arm will then twist up and free the leg to come all the way down, supporting this model, which, yes, I am very surprised this is all it takes, this flimsy leg joint here to support the entire build, but it actually works really, really well. You can already see where the arm's coming out. We've got a hand here for Vader's lightsaber, and then the rest of the wing acts as a nice samurai style, especially with this giant shoulder, this nice point at the shoulder, and we've of course got to keep that printed 2x2 on the wing for some sort of Imperial insignia. Perhaps this is their mech insignia. It just so happens to look like the wing of a TIE fighter. The wing on the other side, you can lift these out of the way to fold the wing in. I'm unsure right now whether I do want the cape here of the mech folded under the arm, or if it looks better folded away from the arm. But I'm going to tuck it away just for now because the arm does help to keep it in place whilst we sort out the other wing. And once again, pop in these brackets on either side apart, we free the arm, and well, this is the cape that goes all the way around, and they actually connect. I have flipped the brackets on either side, so you can see we have a bottom bracket down here. These are all black elements. I'm sure you can't see too well, but we do have a bottom bracket down here, top bracket down here, and the same on the bottom. So these do clip together, forming the cape, and just to make sure we don't get the cockpit in the way, I am going to lift that up and deal with that in just a second. So placing it on any sort of flat surface, you can clip them together, and now Vader's mech has a lovely large cape that is the size of the wing, but you haven't had to detach any elements. Don't forget to bring that other leg down, which we're definitely going to need for all of the support we can get, but we'll deal with those later. On the other side, you can see we have another arm, just folding those behind the wing, bringing it up. And the nice thing with these mech arms is they can come in pretty much to the middle of the mech. So the hands can almost meet in the middle, which is usually how Vader holds his lightsaber. Now let's try and balance this thing. So I'm not going to make any cuts into the video here to show you just how easy it is to get this Vader mech to balance. Dependent on the pose that you're going to want, you're going to have to position these in different ways. And if you didn't want to try and balance this mech, there are studs on the bottom of the feet that will allow you to attach this to some sort of 16x16 plate. There you go. Vader's mech is freestanding, maybe a little wobbly. If we do wobble the desk, you can see it's shaking just a little bit, but so would anything because we're wobbling the desk. On the bottom of the feet, you can see there are studs with nothing getting in the way. So this will attach to any sort of build. You can have the leg positioned perhaps on an elevated platform over here, and now I've messed them around. We're going to have to find that sweet, sweet balance point. For Vader's lightsaber, I have taken the one from the mech. It is a bit small, but we do want this mech to appear larger than just minifigure scale, or as a minifigure would compared to the Lego lightsaber. Mind you, Lego lightsabers are massive themselves. And in that stream, one of you's actually said about having Vader's chest piece, which I think this 4x4 dish does act quite nice, resembling that element. Now, to slot Vader inside, we are going to have to remove his cape. Or we could always use another holiday variation that is very much ready for summer and doesn't come with that element. There are two ways of doing this. You can either drop Vader right through the cockpit and get the cockpit actually placed down on top of Vader, or you can completely remove this piece, which is what I'll be doing for the sake of this video so that we can see our Darth look. I'm going to keep this section of the video in just to show you that sometimes it can be quite fidgety, especially if you're trying to hold the model from the top. You've got to find that center of balance, and sometimes that does mean Vader might be leaning a little forward dependent on where his arms are positioned. Now that we've got it balanced, let's try and get Vader back out, and we can stud him to either of the chairs. You could elevate the back chair, but I do like Vader sticking out a little more than he was hidden before, just so he can reach those TIE fighter controls whilst he is in mech formation. And let's face it, with Vader in his suit of armor already, he's not going to need any protection, but this cockpit does act as a nice little windshield, especially if Vader is going to come across many of these X-Wing mechs in his path. Pew, pew, pew. Just like Vader's original TIE Fighter, you can see, or TIE Advance, you can see that cockpit has spared absolutely no detail and actually fits a few more minifigures than just 2 in this orientation. You saw Vader disappear right at the start. Perhaps Vader's got like 3 troopers under there holding him up or helping him out with the mech. And compared to the size of that X-Wing mech or any of the other mechs LEGO Star Wars have put out, this is like twice the height, so 4 times the size, 8 times the size even, if you include that cape at the back, or perhaps that's some sort of shield barrier protecting Vader's flank. And all these sides of Vader's mech are fully protected thanks to the shields provided by the wings of his TIE Advance. So this is definitely something I'd love to see in Rebuild the Galaxy. He's just got to watch out for attacks to his legs, kind of like an AT-AT Walker. I can see this definitely being an Imperial vessel. Not everyone displays their ships. A load of you, I'm sure, will definitely have some fun playing with this. And thanks to the wing going around Vader's body, you can hold this quite firmly without destroying any Lego. Those ball joints are definitely putting in the work and have this fighting Luke's mech, or perhaps just coming down on a Rebel base. Imagine this just taking down the entire Yavin set. I'm sure Vader would have hours of fun. But this isn't just a giant mech for Vader to roam around in. If he wants to get off world and go terrorize another system, you can transform this back into Vader's TIE Advance. And we will now be taking a look at it compared to that last model of Vader's TIE Advance I built, because I don't think this is actually a bad ship whatsoever. And dare I say it, it might even be better than the last mock I built. Once again, you're going to want to make sure you clip in those wings, and Vader's hand does slot very nicely into the end here. There's a little gap for it, so it's not got much wiggle room when it's in the orientation of the ship. You just want to make sure both these bottom wings are lined up together, and they can be really at any angle you like. I do lock them so they can go no further than this, just so if you do put the wings in, it's not too much of a struggle trying to put the leg and squeeze that back inside. Once again, enough space that it's not built perfect for the leg. There's a little bit of wiggle room, but we've got the slopes of the feet lining up to the side, and now we're going to want to do the same on the other side. Sometimes it is just easier popping off the leg and popping it back on when it's in position. But how quick was that, transforming it all the way from Vader's mech back into Vader's TIE Advance, which we not only see in A New Hope, we also see in Rebels, and I'm sure it's popped up various times in Legends and comics. So here we have the last Vader's Advance that I built, and here we have the brand new one. They're both 1/45 minifigure scale. This new one looks a little bigger because of all the different elements we've got going about, and probably is a few plates wider than this old one, but they are the exact same height, the exact same width, the exact same length even, because of these parts I've used for the wings. The grey body of these wings, these top and bottom wings, are exactly the same in both these models, yet because I've used some bigger plates and come closer to the edge, it does add that extra little feel for height. And you can see this is where I've taken the cockpit from. The old Lego version, or the Lego cockpit from the bomber, which is again what I've used for this Vader's Advance. This is an alt build of the Lego TIE Bomber. Has a black brick behind it so you can't see through, whereas this cockpit, even though it's pretty dark inside, you can still see not only into it, but Vader can see out at what he's trying to target. I really like this 6x6 dish as well that came with the bomber, but it just had no place on Vader's Advance, which is why we've gone with the one from the older TIE Fighter. But there are so many similarities past the fact that these two are the same size. One thing I'd like to point out is Vader's Advance here is a little further off the desk. This one on the left is very low hanging, and the cockpit definitely droops below the middle of the ship, which I've tried to fix with this new one. And not only that, but if I flip the model upside down, you can see that not only it doesn't support itself as well. There we go. But we've also got this little stairway at the bottom, this little loading ramp that allows for Vader to actually get in his ship, which is something completely missing from that other version. There just weren't enough pieces to work that into the base. Instructions for this TIE Advance alt build are already up on the website, and I will be working on instructions for this Vader Transformer tie, this tie Transformer, so keep an eye out for that. I'll pin a comment with a link when they are out. I had so much fun building this TIE Advanced Transformer that I definitely think I'll come back and revisit this for the X-Wing. But like I said, I've got something planned for that, so stay tuned, as well as a ton of other mock builds over this May 4th holiday, sprinkled with a few LEGO games. This weekend, we will be going live Friday, Saturday, and Sunday after Star Wars Celebration, playing LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga. We should have enough time to play through the entire game and also take a look at some of the very fun extras whilst talking about what happened at Star Wars Celebration. I'm sure there'll be some LEGO news, albeit ones that we've seen announced countless times from LEGO already, as well as leaked beforehand. But I'd love if some of you can join us to celebrate hitting 5,000 subscribers. And don't forget, at 10,000 subscribers, we will be building a UCS set of your choice live here on the channel. At the minute, that is looking to be Jabba's Sail Barge, and I must say, having not owned a Jabba the Hutt, I can get down with that. But until then, thank you so much for watching this video. Shout out to the channel members. May the bricks be with you always.